Welcome back. Today, I'll be sharing something totally different than the usual. The EF335 was sent in for color work and a complete overhaul. Not too familiar with this brand and immediately noticing it was a clone of a D.O.C, my initial reaction was biased and I had a disdain for the folder. After researching, I couldn't find any true breakdown videos, so I'm going to share my personal thoughts while taking everyone on a virtual tour. The construction honestly isn't bad at all. The handle is comprised of nicely contoured G10 that I shaved to expose the grain for the dye job. The steel liners are nested and extend the entire length of the frame, even exposed on the front side, functioning as stops for the external pins. The G10 doesn't feel cheap by any stretch, but the ergos can't be attributed to this build, so I'll leave that alone. The scales and liners are held together by 4 standoffs, 3 passing directly through the G10 spacers, and the 4th is clamped in, half exposed due to the standoff acting as a closed position stop pin. The milled spacer is the only area along the frame that has jimping and protrudes beyond the contouring. The back spacer also contains a lanyard slot at the end. The build is held together by air quotes Microtech tri-wing screws, but when compared to my Matrix hardware, it doesn't even come close. No intricate details or fine mill work. The pivot is oversized to match the build and is a 2-piece construction that's more durable than the usual 3-piece pivot systems. The 335 has 2 different deployment methods: the tab and the external stops that double as studs. The out-of-the-box action was stiff, with a detent heavy enough to hinder thumb stud deploy. The most impressive part is the multi-row bearings used in the folder. After a proper tune, the action is more than decent. The spear point blade shape, grind-wise, is okay, but everything else was off. Which leads me to most of my issues I have with this knife, and the mods needed to fix them. First, the lockup was horrible. An overbearing detent, sending the lock bar too far across the tang, coupled with lock stick and adding a sharply jimped lock release. So I fine-tuned the detent, then shaped the lock bar interface to conform with the blade's tang, eliminating the lock stick, following with reducing the 90-degree angle on the over-jimped lock bar. My tune still fires hard, but is light enough to be flicked and allow the blade to close behind its own weight. To allow the MRBS proper room to operate, I reduced the walls and the bearing race. And finally, I polished the liner walls the bearings rotate against. The belt grind looked nice, but up close, all aspects fell short. The lock side finish was straight, but the steel stamp was crooked, while the show side finish on the flats was tilting at about 20 degrees. The external stop pins do look good, but again are one big hotspot and are very sharp on the top edges. All these were reasons I decided on a dual pass etch and tumble on the blade and hardware. This method addressed all the issues at once, and my personal thoughts on the build, to me it's really a project knife. Almost every aspect is undone, and to be fair, it follows suit with the price tag. I can recommend this folder only if you want an unfinished project on your hands, or are looking to practice modding and blade reprofiles, etc. Anyone exposed to a $30 CRKT or Kershaw would know there is nothing refined or polished about this knife, but I will give the brand and one of its in-house designs a chance and a full review. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on the EF335, both the factory version and this modded version. And with that, I'll be signing off from the Fuller Fanatic.